Good evening, everybody. Great to be back at BBI. We're going to get started with our hymnology on the song Sweet By and By, or as we would know it, In the Sweet By and By. This simple gospel hymn has been a very sentimental favorite with many of God's people, especially as a comforting funeral hymn, since it first appeared in 1868 in a hymnal that was entitled The Signet Ring, a new collection of music and hymns composed for Sabbath schools, which was compiled by Joseph P. Webster. Following the close of the Civil War, Sanford Bennett, the author, returned to Elkhorn, Wisconsin, where he became the proprietor of a local drugstore while also studying medicine. He opened a drugstore and then began to study medicine. Only in America. Joseph Webster, the composer, was a music teacher and was recognized as the town's leading musician. These two gentlemen met often in Bennett's drugstore for friendly discussions. Bennett tells this story of how Webster, with a violin under his arm, dropped in to see him one quiet winter afternoon. He said, Mr. Webster, like many musicians, was of an exceeding nervous and sensitive nature, and subject to periods of depression in which he looked upon the dark side of all things in life. I had learned his peculiarities so well that on meeting him I could tell at a glance if he was melancholy, and had found that I could rouse him by giving him a new song on which to work. He came into my place of business, walked down to the stove, and turned his back on me without speaking. I was at my desk writing. Turning to him, I said, Webster, what's the matter now? It's no matter, he replied. It will be all right by and by. The idea came to me like a flash of sunlight, and I replied, the sweet by and by. Why, would that not make a good hymn? Maybe it would, he said indifferently. Turning to my desk, I penned the words as fast as I could. I handed the words to Webster, and as he read, his eyes kindled, and stepping back to the desk, he began writing the notes. Taking his violin, he played the melody and then jotted down the notes of the chorus. It was not over 30 minutes from the time I took my pen to write the words before two friends, with Webster and myself, were singing the hymn. Sanford Fillmore Bennett had a varied and illustrious career. He was born in Eden, New York on June the 21st, 1836, and died on June the 12th, 1898 in Richmond, Indiana. He was converted at a Methodist revival meeting, but later in life he declared himself a Universalist. Bennett was educated at the University of Michigan and later served briefly as the superintendent of schools in Richmond, Illinois, before moving to Elkhorn, Wisconsin, to become the associate editor of a weekly newspaper. The Independent was the name of it. During the Civil War, Bennett served as a second lieutenant in the 40th Wisconsin Volunteers. It was after the war that he returned to Elkhorn, became proprietor of the local drugstore, and then studied medicine at the Rush Medical College, from which he graduated in 1874. Dr. Bennett practiced medicine for the next 22 years. Throughout his lifetime, he also wrote a considerable amount of both prose and verse, with his first poems appearing in the Waukegan Gazette in the early 1850s. Sweet By and By is Bennett's only hymn text still in use, however. Now, Joseph Philbrick Webster was recognized as a talented musician in his day. He studied music with Lowell Mason, I should say, in Boston, Massachusetts, spent several years in New York and Connecticut teaching music and giving concerts. He was said to have been proficient in playing the flute, violin, and piano. Because of his strong anti-slavery convictions, Webster moved to Elkhorn, Wisconsin shortly before the outbreak of the war. He is credited with more than 1,000 musical compositions, with his most popular song being Lorena, which is a secular number. Webster was the compiler of a Sunday school hymnal called The Signet Ring, in which Sweet By and By first appeared in 1868. Joseph Webster died on January the 18th, 1875, at the age of 56. Today, visitors to Elkhorn, Wisconsin may visit the Webster House and see the authentic 19th century home of the composer of this hymn and view the violin that was first used to play the melody of this beloved gospel hymn. Sweet By and By. How about that? Okay, look at your lesson outline there on the page in front of you. What we're we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and transition out of sight singing and ear training, and we're going to work our way back into the fundamentals of singing, or the basics of singing, and kind of pick up where we left off with that. And then once we complete that, we'll finish off the rest of this year by doubling up on some final music theory worksheets that I'm going to give you to work out some things and refresh some things in your mind. We've only got 4 weeks roughly worth of classes left, with the 5th final week being the week of graduation. But we will still have class that Monday night, in which you will take your final exam. Oh, and I'm excited about it too. It's going to be great. It's going to be great. Not only is it going to be a written exam, it's also going to be a practical exam. So you'll have to demonstrate techniques in conducting, and not to the class, but to me individually. Just to me individually. And also, there will be a little bit of an added bonus of a surprise. And I don't mind spoiling for you now. I'll just go ahead and tell you. I will be handing you a sheet of music of a melody that I will have made up myself. And I will tell you which line to sing. I will play the beginning note, and you will do your best to sight sing that one line. It's all part of proving, not in front of everybody, just for me. Y'all can relax. It'll be a private session. That way you're not intimidated by being in front of everybody. There won't be no camera recording for all the world to see, nothing like that, okay? So relax. It'll be all right. It's just to get a good idea of your proficiency, seeing how much you're learning, how you retain, and whether or not you deserve to get an associate's degree in this topic right here. Okay, anyway. So, lesson number 6, sight singing and ear training, a review of sight singing. Here's the 3 main rules in which we all need to follow. And by the way, you still got roughly a month before you graduate. Today being the 25th, graduation being the 26th of May. So, don't let it bother you or anything like that. I promise it's not going to be like, whoa, nothing like that. It's just going to see, just demonstrating the basic interval movements and things like that. Don't fret, okay? So the 3 main rules in which comes in sight singing music. The first rule is you must establish the rhythm or the pulse of the song. Give it a good glance over and examine what are the most common types of notes that this song contains. Do we see a lot of half notes? Do we see majorly eighth notes? And if we see eighth notes, we know it's going to have much more of a swifter flow. The current of that river is going to flow a little faster than one that would probably trickle more if it had a lot more of quarter notes, half notes, or even if you saw quite a bit of whole notes, which you won't typically, but somebody would have to intentionally do that for that to work. But first thing you do is you assess what is the obvious pulse of this song going to be. And the first thing, in order to establish that, after you look at what the most common notes of the song are, is go back to the time signature. What does it say? What is the time signature teaching you? Is this going to be a 4/4 song in which it's just going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, very common? Or is it going to be a 6/8? You've got to know how the song is going to flow. And pay attention to these things. If it's a 3/4, you know it's going to have a waltz feel. Doom, 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 doom. Okay? So just pay attention. Begin to assess the scenery that you have been handed. It's that simple. Go ahead and scan for the different types of the rhythm notes, whether there are some that are dotted, that you know will give you kind of a syncopation on the song, or if there are no dots, you know it's going to be more smooth as it goes through. Just clues to give you an idea of what this song is going to sound like. Second thing you should do is determine what the tonic is. Establish the tonic of the song. If it's written in the key of C, then we know that the tonic of that is going to be C. Now, how do you know what key it's written in? You examine the key signature, okay? So you should look at the time signature and then look at the key signature. That'll help you determine what the tonic is. Then when you determine what the tonic is, you want to look at what the first note you're going to sing is going to be. And if it's not the tonic, for example, if the song is in the key of C and your first note is not C, you need to then figure out what note is it. What note is my first note compared to the tonic? Well, if it's E, we understand that that is a third interval off of that C, C, D, E, right? We know if the key or the tonic is C and your first note is G, we know that that's C, D, E, F, G, a fifth interval from it, which are natural intervals in a major scale. It's very simple to just break it down. Determine what that interval is. Is it a second, third, fourth, fifth, or a sixth, or even a seventh? And then finally, just look over the song briefly and just see how the notes flow. Is it going to be a song in which the notes gradually go up and down with very little intervals? Or are there going to be a lot of octaves, fifths, and intervals that you'll recognize very quickly, because we've studied that, in order to determine how the song is going to kind of sound in your mind? But remember, the one thing you must always keep in the back of your mind while you're singing is where home is, the tonic. Remembering where everything centers around, because the tonic is the basis of the entire song. And in the key of C, it would be the note C. In the key of F, it would be the note F. Thank you very much. All right, turn the page. Let's look at the exercises here. And then what we're going to do is I'm going to have Brother Jason and Brother Scotty to pass out some songbooks in a moment. And I'm going to throw a song out of the church hymnal that I'm pretty positive that no one, and if somebody does know it, it's probably going to be Jerry Sidden or my mom, I'm pretty sure. But there's a song in this book that I've never in my life heard sung in church. And you'll kind of figure out why when you see it. But the point is, we're going to look at it and we're going to do a little sight reading just to give you an idea of how important it is to be able to, how much quicker you can learn a song if you just get a basis and an overview of it as you look. And what I'd like for you to do is I would like for you to thumb through the church hymnal when you get it and see if you can find a song that you don't know. And then begin to study it. I'd like to see you take a song that you've never sung before or heard sung before and learn how to sing it, because you're going to put these principles into practice. But look at your worksheets first. I'm going to go to the piano. Look at your worksheets first here. Got 10 exercises on this worksheet. And what we're going to do is we're going to just practice doing some sight singing off these, okay? Now these are some sight singing exercises that Brother Kenneth Osbeck has created in some of his workbooks that he does for children's choirs and for Christian schools and homeschool groups and things like that. And what we're going to do is just going to go through them one at a time. First thing we want to do, as always, is examine what the pulse of the song is. Tell me real quick, what is the main kind of note that you see here? They're all quarter notes, right? So we know that it's going to have much more of a walking pace to it. Not running or skipping, not slow or holding, but walking. A nice marching rhythm. Okay? And then when we look at it, and we notice that it is in the key of what? C. So we know that our tonic is going to be on C. What's the first note of the song? C. So when I go and I say, here's your key, here's your tonic, your first note is going to be C or C. And then you can just walk yourself through these exercises to give you an idea of what the song sounds like. I want you to sing it with me. I am going to play it on the piano as I go, but I want you to sing it with me, and let's give it a shot. Number one, what's the key signature, by the way?
C.
And what is the time signature?
2/4.
Very good. So we know our tonic is, first note is, and it is in 2/4, so it's 1, 2, 1, 2. Ready? 1, 2, ready, go. Okay, do it again. Let's all do it on Da. 1, 2, ready, go. Da, 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 da. So you just, it's going up the scale, a few intervals here and there, but it's mainly just stair-stepping and walking up and down the scale. It's very simple indeed. Look at number 2. Again, we're in the key of C. Again, we are starting on the tonic, C. And one thing I would like to point out is that there's a difference in the time signature. This is 3/4 instead of 2/4. But what's the interval between the first and the second note? It's a third. And how about between the first and the third note? That's a fifth. In other words, it's going to make a C major chord as you climb it. 1, 3, 5, C, E, G. That is a natural progression. No matter what key you do it in, if you start on even an F, F being number 1, you go to number 3, which is A, and number 5, which is C, it makes a major chord. No matter what key you're in, 1, 3, and 5 all make major chords, okay? So, number 2, let's try this together. First note is C. Forgive me, I'm not going to play in octaves, but I am going to play in my octave to make it easier because I will get confused if I play it in a different octave than what I sing. Ladies, you'll be up here. C. We're going to do it on Da. Ready? Da. That's Russian for yes, if you didn't know. Da. We could do it in yet and do no in Russian. Yet. We'll do Da. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 1. Ready? Go. Da, 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 da. Do it again. Ready? 1, 2, ready, go. Da, 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 da. Swifter. What do you notice is different about number 3? Two things that are really different. The first thing that's different is that you have a certain kind of note that you didn't have in the other 2 exercises. What is that? You have eighth notes, but there's also one special note thrown in there that throws you off a little bit. The dotted quarter note. So that is going to cause us to add a half a beat on that quarter note, which means instead of going, it's going to go, because we're adding that half beat onto it with an eighth note following it, right? In the key of C again, tonic is C, therefore, and our first note happens to be C. It's in 4/4 this time. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, ready, go. Da, da, da. Start on the second line of number 3. What is that interval? You're going from a C to another C. What's that called? An octave. Very good. So it's da da. I was going to start climbing down and going da 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 da, but it's going from C C G. Okay. That's your intervals. You're going from 1 to 8 back to 5. Da 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 da. Start that second line. 1, 2, ready, go. Da 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 da. Off. Very good. So you see how easy it can be if you just pay attention to where you are. It moves and it flows at certain intervals, and that's what you really need to pay attention to. What you need to do is you need to continue to use these with the other exercises that I've given you to little by little work on your skills, just like exercising and just like anything else I've told you, that unless you practice these things, they're not going to come easily or naturally. You have to develop them and hone them. Download some music theory apps. You've got, there is a fantastic music app I found today. I don't remember what it's called now. Unlimited Music, something or other perhaps, but it's phenomenal. You can download it onto a tablet and it has lots of helps for you to be able to get a lot of this into your mind. But the most important thing is just to practice, practice, practice. Now, gentlemen, would you mind passing out the church hymnals for me, please?
I don't think this has apps on it.
What?
I don't think that has apps on it.
It does not, as a matter of fact. I don't even know if it has a camera. You're going to turn to page 304. 304 in the church hymnal. When you get it, 304. And if you know it, I would like to know. I would like to know if you know it. Please tell me if you know it. Now you may have seen the title before, but have you sung it is what I want to know. Have you heard it sung or sung it?
Oh, yeah, actually.
What do you think? Okay. Really? Been a while though, hasn't it? Yeah.
You trying to find the one you found?
Yeah, 304. Mom, can you play it? Yeah? Okay, come on, play it. Hush. Because I thought I pulled one over on you. I thought I pulled one over on you. No way. All right. If you do know it, the truth of the matter is, I'm sure it's been an eternity since you've sung it, probably. It doesn't get pulled out. Most of the time, most of the reason that you would pull it out is because the first line says, Central's never busy. The only Central people around here know is Ash Central, which no longer exists, and Wilkes Central, which nobody goes to unless they have to. That's right. North Wilkes High School, Vikings, class of 2003. What?
Used to be Central Telephone.
Really?
That's what it means. Central telephone. Not central.
I know that. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying today. Nobody knows that because they'd be like, Central. Why would you go to Central unless you had to? They're talking about where the people had to plug the pins in at the home office.
The Central Telephone.
What was the lady's name on Andy Griffith that ran Central? Sarah, get me the diner, please. Yeah, that's it. That's Central. All right, let's give it a shot. Here we go. Give it a shot. Try it with me. Central's never busy, always on the line. You may hear from heaven almost any time. 'Tis our royal service, free for one and all. When you get in trouble, give this royal line a call. Telephone to glory, oh, what joy divine. I can feel the current moving on the line. Built by God the Father for His love and gold. We may talk to Jesus through this royal telephone. Thank you very much. Now, when you look at this song, what's the first thing that you notice? The majority of all the notes are what? Eighth notes. So you know the song is going to flow, which means you have to pay attention. And then when they decide to throw in a dotted quarter note on you, it all of a sudden stops the song. And I did that because you're not used to seeing something that's going to hold it out quite that long. You would think a dotted eighth note with a 16th following. That's why you have to pay attention. But it's a really catchy song, isn't it? It's kind of neat. But in today's society, there's no such thing as Central, so a lot of people will be like, you know, what does that even mean? You wouldn't be able to educate many people on that. But that's a song that I never in my life have ever heard sung at church before. But even as a kid, I'd come across it and I'd be like, the Royal Telephone. What in the world? One of these days, watch Preacher Donnie pull that out at Bethel one of these days and be like, let's all turn to 304 in the church hymnal. Central's never busy. That'd be great. That'd be fantastic.
We had Corvette overalls, I think.
Wouldn't that be funny if on like Harvest Sunday or Old Fashioned Day or something? That would be hilarious. That would be great. Okay. What we're going to do from here on out for the end of class, we just got about 15-20 minutes of class time left. For those of you that are watching in the recording, we're going to go ahead and end the recording now because what we're going to do from here on out is just go through the songbook and find songs that we here in this classroom may not be familiar with. So the idea from this point forward is to put the three principles to practice of just giving a good overview of the pulse of the song, a good idea of how the flow of the song is, and then you'll know the tonic so that you know how the notes relate to it. So if you'll keep that in mind, you'll be able to sing the songs with greater ease, okay? Thank you very much. God bless you. We'll see you next time.